speaking of things that have kind of gone the way of the dodo, a few weeks ago we discussed on What You Need to Know. We talked about the decline in westerns. So, kind of a throwback. This week we're going to talk about the decline of gothic horror movies. And this is something I had to think about. I know we briefly mentioned it, I think last week or a couple weeks ago, and talked about if there's any modern it's gonna sound weird. If there's any modern day gothic horror movies, and then I remember saying we mentioned Crimson Peaks, but that was a few years ago. But honestly, I cannot think of any gothic horror movies that come out anymore. Blake, you mentioned a few.
Yeah, I mean, Crimson Peak is probably the most like on point, being a gothic horror movie, you know. And when did that come out? I have it right here. 2015. Jeez.
I was gonna say
Jesus
16.
Christ.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
5 years
Okay.
ago.
Okay, so like that is a while ago, and so yeah, I would say The Woman in Black, is another one, but that's also who knows how long ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think The Little Stranger, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a book, definitely gothic horror, and it doesn't. I don't know. I think that movies would probably be pretty polarizing, and I think maybe that's why it's kind of dropped off in favor. Like literally everything that like was in the horror genre that used to come out in Hollywood or in England, almost all of it was gothic.
Well, that's your Hammer movies right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
Hammer movie is a gothic horror movie. Anything with Vincent Price in it has some flair of gothic. All the old Edgar Allan Poe stuff is classified a lot of times as gothic. Frankenstein's a gothic horror movie. Dracula.
Dracula is gothic, and
They're all gothic. Yeah.
which is funny because now, then the two you mentioned in particular, we're seeing like Frankenstein's Army, I think and that was kind of a modern retelling of Dracula 2000 AD or whatever. Like they don't stick with the gothic birth, I guess. They don't stick with
Yeah.
which is really strange to me. And I always think, and whenever people talk, and I guess period pieces we're still seeing, pretty regularly, but
Yeah.
whenever people talk about period pieces and gothic scenery, they always talk about the beauty of it. And the gowns are so beautiful, and the men are so stately. So I can't for the life of me imagine why that genre, not that, I expect it to be number one in this era of shared universes and superhero movies, but it surprises me that we don't see at least one or two a year.
Well, yeah, and it's honestly, I'm not you now that you brought it to my attention, I feel like there's a severe lack. Like I miss like Masterpiece Theater. Like every little intro had like a little animation from Edward Gorey. Like I love that stuff. Like that stuff's great. Like yeah, why it's a very good question, Patrick. It's very good question indeed.
Well, I feel like so I haven't seen Crimson Peak or The Woman in Black. And I think the last one I really did, I think I remember seeing was Suspiria, the original Suspiria. But even then, I think that was the last one. I think I saw.
That's kind of a stretch.
Yeah, I know that's a huge stretch. But
you seen Interview with the Vampire or anything like that?
So I feel like we talked about like the subgenres of horror, and romance doesn't. For something doesn't like really like ever like pop up, and I feel like gothic horror has that flair to it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And for some reason, I just like the westerns, like there's not a click with modern audiences anymore, because we mentioned Emma just came out a couple of months ago, and that's a period piece. It's Victorian, I think.
I have something to say that I hate.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead, Danny.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, sorry. Well, so like it's kind of dawning on me. Like, is like Twilight is that like what a modern audience wants with like gothic horror?
I think it is, because I do think romance is definitely still alive. Like, I mean, it's a weird version of it nowadays. Like Twilight and the direction that rom-coms have stayed pretty steady to what they've always been. But yeah, I think you're right. Gothic horror is what Twilight is now. It must be, because you have stuff like what was that thing with Nicole Kidman with the polar bear, the Golden Compass. You have, I mean, that kind of has the earmarks of a gothic setting, sorta.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know what I was watching.
Penny Dreadful, I think, right?
Yeah, so we have like shows that still play with that, but
right. right?
It's still the same. It's still the
haven't
same
watched
thing. Yeah, I knew that, but like it still doesn't work for movies. Like obviously we had Deadwood, we have all these other shows on Showtime that have to do with some sort of like like this gothic air to it, but it doesn't work for movies for some reason. Like I don't think Crimson Peak was even like
I like Crimson Peak.
regarded to be
Pike's
like
really
a
good,
movie.
Yeah, I think I think like they always end up being kind of polarizing, like even like some of the like I mean is the others one? Like that's one like I'm
Kinda.
like kind of like but not really, right? Not really.
No, I don't
It's like
think
a
so.
modern one, also. I guess,
Yeah,
like that
right.
was a ways back. It might be people's taste nowadays because a lot of times when people talk about in romantic period type characters, it's with very highfalutin and they joke around with how they talk, and it's almost a joke.
Oh my. Yeah.
Exactly, like hello, like that
Pass
type
the
of thing.
butter. Yes, we have
Uh,
butter here.
maybe that's what it is.
None of that
Maybe
margin shit.
uh, maybe no one can take gothic horror seriously nowadays.
Maybe that's it. Because like Dark Shadows didn't do it any favors. That kind of made it like a joke.
Yeah, right.
Uh, people make fun of Dracula all the time now. The Dracula series that is on Netflix. That's got that one actor from that thing we covered for the YouTube. It's like a BBC production or whatever. That's got some. I mean, it's obviously Dracula. It's got some gothic elements, but they do as much as they can to immediately shift gears and go to a modern setting. So I don't know. Maybe it's kind of just bumming me out actually. Like I want more. I want more gothic horror. Like and why is it always vampires?
Oh, they fit it perfect. Like it's that
Yeah,
goes back to the elegance of it. And
yeah, true.
there's there is no monster more elegant than especially Dracula. I mean,
Yeah,
there's those Lost Boys type vampires that are like scrubs, but I'm Dracula. Come on, man.
it's true. Yeah.
Um, I know we can't even pinpoint or pin down why we don't think it exists anymore. But do you think it'll come back? Which is kind of I don't know if that's a good. We don't even know
I
why
sure
it's
hope
gone to
so.
begin with. I
I,
hope so too.
I hope so. I think it will. I mean, I think a lot of this stuff will. I mean, just like we were talking about, like noir movies and stuff. Just like go briefly. Like I think all that stuff kind of ebbs and flows. Like I think we'll get kind of another big batch of it because like I feel like the '90s was kind of rife with it. Like the '90s was kind of like full of it. Like all maybe done, not necessarily great in a great way, but like there was a lot of it.
So it was full of it.
Yeah, it was totally full of it. And so like we're kind of like 20 years, going on 30 years away from that now. So it's like I think we'll get another big swing of it. I don't know, Danny.
I see. I think as we're getting more niche, like I think something like A24 or Focus Films is going to do something that we're not expecting,
Ooh, I'd
and I
love that.
feel, and I think it's going to be more independent that what we've seen like in the past. I really do think so. It's going to be coming like completely like the far left, and it's going to hit us, and it's going to hit us hard. I really do think that's going to happen because it's time. I mean, 5 years. If we're only thinking about Crimson Peak,
Oh yeah, I want a
or
good Jack the Ripper. Danny.
yeah,
Exactly.
there's
not,
like
not
this.
not another remake of From Hell. Like
Yeah,
it's
no. Yeah.
I
no,
really did not like that movie.
Oh
I
yeah.
agree. I mean, I think also one of the things is in its well Hollywood, and I mean they're there to make money, so they're gonna copy what's big. So going gothic horror was big, a few decades ago, but
Mhm.
people have moved away from that. And I think to Danny's point, it will probably come from somewhere smaller.
Yeah.
But I think right now one of the things with it's so easy to make a movie nowadays, and
Yeah.
there's so many filmmakers out there that
Mhm.
people are trying so hard to do different things, and they're doing some amazing stuff. But unfortunately, the older things that have worked in the past, they're old fashioned and trite and boring, and I don't think people
Yeah.
respect that anymore.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Man.
It's sad. It is sad
It's
as
it is.
the world turns.